Sometimes, life changes in the smallest, strangest moments. One quiet decision. One act of kindness. One lie told not to hurt, but to survive. And suddenly, everything you thought your future would be is rewritten. This is a story about a woman who reached out to a stranger in fear, a man who chose kindness without hesitation, and a moment in a cafe that turned into a love story neither of them saw coming. Before we begin, take a moment to support the channel. If stories about real emotions, unexpected connections, and the power of kindness move you, please subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. This is Truth Lines USA, where real moments turn into unforgettable stories. Now, let me tell you how it all began. Emily wasn't having a good day. Actually, it had been a bad year. She was 29, recently moved to a new city in Ohio, freshly single after a painful breakup, and still trying to find her footing in a place where she didn't know many people. That afternoon, she had walked into a small neighborhood cafe just to escape the cold in her thoughts. The cafe smelled like coffee beans and warm bread. Soft music played in the background. Emily ordered a latte and sat at a small table near the window, hoping the calm would help her breathe again. That's when she noticed him. He was sitting alone at a table a few feet away. Mid-30s, casual clothes, kind eyes focused on a book. There was nothing flashy about him. Just calm. Safe. The kind of person you'd trust to watch your bag without asking. Emily wouldn't have thought twice about him if it weren't for what happened next. A man she didn't know walked into the cafe and locked eyes with her. At first, she ignored it. Then he smiled and walked closer. Too close. He leaned toward her table and said something she couldn't hear over the music, but his tone made her uncomfortable. Emily shook her head and said she wasn't interested. He laughed. Sat down without asking. Kept talking. Her heart began to race. She looked around, hoping someone would notice. No one did. The barista was busy. The cafe was quiet. The men wouldn't leave. That's when Emily made a split-second decision. She stood up, walked straight to the stranger with the book, and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Hey babe, sorry I'm late." The man looked up, surprised. Emily didn't stop. She leaned down, kissed him on the cheek, and whispered, "Please help me." For a brief second, everything froze. Then the stranger smiled, stood up, wrapped an arm around her shoulders, and said, "I was wondering where you went." He pulled out a chair. Emily sat. Her hands were shaking. The other men stared at them, confused. The stranger met his eyes calmly and said, "Can I help you?" The men mumbled something and walked away. Emily felt the tension leave her body all at once. She realized she was crying. "I'm so sorry," she said quickly. "I didn't know what else to do." The stranger handed her a napkin. "You don't have to apologize," he said gently. "Are you okay?" She nodded, wiping her face. "Thank you." Thank you." "I'm Jack," he said. "And for the record, you did exactly the right thing." They sat there for a moment in silence. Emily expected him to go back to his book. Instead, he asked if she wanted to stay until she felt safe. She said yes. They talked. About nothing important at first. Coffee. The weather. How hard it was to make friends as an adult. Jack had moved to the city a few years earlier for work. Emily told him about her breakup, about feeling lost. Jack listened. Really listened. He didn't rush her or try to fix her problems. He just made space for her words. When they finally stood to leave, Emily felt lighter than she had in months. "Can I walk you to your car?" Jack asked. She smiled. "I'd like that." They exchanged numbers before parting ways. Emily told herself not to read into it. He was just kind. That was all. But kindness has a way of staying with you. They texted the next day. Then the next. A week later, they met for coffee again. This time, there was no pretending. Their friendship grew slowly. Jack was patient. Emily was cautious. They both carried past hurts, but neither pushed. One night, months later, Emily admitted something she'd never said out loud. That day in the cafe, she said, I felt invisible. And you saw me. Jack looked at her and replied, you were never invisible. Their first kiss happened on a quiet sidewalk under flickering streetlights. It wasn't dramatic. It was gentle. Honest. They built a relationship rooted in kindness. When Emily doubted herself, Jack reminded her of her strength. When Jack lost his job during a company downsizing, Emily stood by him without hesitation. They learned that love wasn't about grand gestures, but about showing up. 2 years later, they returned to the same cafe. Jack seemed nervous. Emily didn't understand why until he stood up, took her hands, and said, you once trusted me with your safety. Now I'm asking if you'll trust me with your future. He proposed right there, between the smell of coffee and the sound of laughter. Emily said yes through tears. They married the following fall. Small ceremony. Close friends. A lot of love. During their vows, Emily told the story of the cafe. She looked at Jack and said, I reached for a stranger because I was afraid. I found my husband because he chose kindness. The room was silent. Then everyone cried. Years later, Emily still tells people this story. Not because it sounds romantic, but because it reminds her how powerful kindness can be. One moment of help. One decision to care. Jack never thought twice about standing up that day. To him, it was simple. Someone needed help. He helped. And that made all the difference. So if there's one thing to take from this story, it's this: kindness matters. You never know how deeply a small act can touch someone's life. You never know who you're helping or how long the impact will last. Hold doors open. Speak up. Offer help. Be the safe place. Because sometimes, kindness doesn't just change a moment. Sometimes, it changes a lifetime.